Welcome to the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
Hello. Chuck Conrad with a kickoff. Roy Evans, strong leg, end over end. Sanders takes it 1 yard deep to the end zone. Up the middle, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, he's at the 40, he's at 45, 50, 45, 40, holy moly! 50, 10, 5, touchdown, Cowboys. Like last year, a same.
And the winner is...
Here's your host, Chris Houston.
Welcome to another episode of the official Heisman Trophy podcast. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend enjoying the first full slate of college football, and that your favorite team acquitted itself well. We've got another interesting show to share with you today. The 1996 Heisman Trophy winner Danny Wuerffel of the University of Florida is going to stop by to talk about his Desire Street Ministries and the Wuerffel Foundation. He and his organizations do such amazing work for so many people. I hope you take the time to listen to what he has to say. And 5 days from now, it's a rather somber anniversary, as it's been 22 years since the horrific terror attacks on New York City and Washington, D.C. and Pennsylvania. Nebraska's Eric Crouch, the 2001 Heisman Trophy winner, is stopping by to tell us what it was like to be in New York City just a few months after those attacks. But before we get to those segments, we're going to start off like we always do, talking to one of the best football players in the country, defensive lineman out of Illinois, preseason All-American Jerzon Johnny Newton. As you can tell, I'm a little bit under the weather. I'm fighting off a viral infection courtesy of my 18-month-old daughter. So I'm going to go get a cup of hot tea while you get the lowdown on the latest in the Heisman world.
It's the Heisman Roundup, Week 1.
It's hard not to start with what was the talk of college football this weekend, the Deion Sanders-led Colorado 45-42 upset at number 17 TCU. Junior quarterback Shedeur Sanders, Deion's son, debuted as a Buffalo by passing for a school record 510 yards and 4 touchdowns. The deciding score came with 4:25 left, a 46-yard touchdown pass to Dylan Edwards.
Off his back foot, caught, first down, and more down the sideline. Stop and start, Edwards. Touchdown, Colorado.
Meanwhile, Colorado sophomore two-way star Travis Hunter tried to match Sanders for heroics. He caught 11 passes for 119 yards on offense while making an interception and 3 tackles on defense while playing 129 snaps.
Third down, Morris. Intercepted, wow! Travis Hunter.
The only matchup between top 10 teams and one featuring a pair of preseason Heisman candidates took place Sunday night when number 8 Florida State defeated number 5 LSU in Orlando 45-24. Seminole signal caller Jordan Travis hit on 23 of 31 passes for 342 yards and 4 touchdowns. 3 of those touchdowns went to Michigan State transfer receiver Keon Coleman, including this 40-yarder that opened the game scoring.
Travis has been dialed in on third down tonight. There's a slant on first down. Catch made by Coleman. Ding on Coleman, his first touchdown as a Seminole.
Washington senior quarterback Michael Penix Jr. helped the Huskies wallop Boise State 56-19 in the season opener. He passed for 450 yards and a career-high tying 5 touchdowns, including this 5-yarder to Rome Odunze.
This time he goes back shoulder. Adunze walls his man off for another Washington touchdown. Penix has 5.
Turning our focus to the Big Easy, we need to mention Tulane quarterback Michael Pratt's near-perfect performance in a 37-17 home win over South Alabama. The junior quarterback, who helped the Green Wave upset USC in last year's Cotton Bowl, completed 14 of 15 passes for 294 yards and 4 touchdowns. 2 of them went to Jaquan Jackson, including this late third-quarter 48-yarder that helped put the game out of reach.
They give it back to Pratt, looking to throw. He's got Jackson deep. Got him! A 48-yard touchdown strike. Michael Pratt. How about it?
And finally, let's hear it for Troy running back Kamani Vidal, who ran for 248 yards on 25 carries and a 48-30 win over Stephen F. Austin. It's the most yards in the nation in Week 1. Vidal's total, which featured a career-long 59-yard burst, broke the nearly 40-year-old program record for single-game yards. He also added 54 receiving yards for 302 all-purpose yards overall. This week we're starting a new feature. We're doing a weekly trivia question. If you think you might know the answer to this one, just email us at pod@heisman.com. That's pod@heisman.com. And the first person to get this answer correct and email it to us will get a Heisman hat. Now, since it's easy for anyone to just Google away and find an answer, we're going to make this one particularly hard. Are you ready? Here goes. In 1983, Nebraska's Mike Rozier set the Heisman record with 29 total touchdowns. And by total touchdowns, I mean it could be a passing touchdown, rushing touchdown, receiving touchdown. So it's total touchdowns in whatever shape or form they may come. So Mike Rozier set the record in 1983 with 29. Whose record did he break, and how many touchdowns did that player have? Once again, send your answer to pod@heisman.com. Give us your address as well if you're confident that you got it, and we'll get that hat out to you right away. The first guest on our show today is just a beast of a defensive lineman. He's a junior out of St. Petersburg, Florida. Last year, he had 60 tackles, including 13 for losses, 5.5 sacks, 3 pass breakups, 11 quarterback hurries. Rated by Pro Football Focus as the #1 defensive tackle prospect in the country. He's also a pretty interesting cat as well. And we talked to him last week before his Illinois Fighting Illini defeated Toledo. All right, Jerzon Johnny Newton of Illinois. Thanks for coming on the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
Thank y'all for having me.
You know, last year, Illinois was first in scoring defense nationally. You guys were third in total defense. This was a huge jump from the previous season. To what do you ascribe this, major improvement from one year over the next?
Just a scheme, honestly. The new coaching staff came in, brought a great scheme. We've been hungry for years now at Illinois. Had a lot of droughts throughout the years, and I feel like with the right players and the scheme the coaches brought in, success was bound to happen. We're all hungry for success, so it played out well.
What is this new scheme as compared to the previous scheme?
Up front, 3 down front rather than what Lovey had us in, 4 down. It's good for the run, of course, in the Big Ten. We run in the lead, stopping the run, and then just the players we have on the back end. I feel like our scheme helps them out a lot. And up front, it just helps us get after the quarterback.
Yeah, watching you on tape, I noticed that you move around a lot on the line depending on the play. I don't know if it's related to down and distance or other situations, but sometimes you're on the strong side, sometimes you're weak, and sometimes you're right up on the nose. Which one of those spots do you feel the most comfortable at?
Sheesh. I know when I'm lined up against the nose, it's probably a 1-on-1, but I just feel most comfortable at a 3-tech for sure.
Okay. You were around 255 coming out of high school, and now you're around 295. What did you do to get bulked up to 295? What was your method?
Just coming into college, meal plan rather than high school. Probably twice a day coming into college, eating 4 to 5 times a day. I was just bound to gain weight. The strength coaches we have right now, Coach Tank, and then the rest of the strength coaches, they have me putting on muscle rather than just putting on a lot of fat. But, it all plays to our nutritionist, what she has us eating, and then the strength program. It just helped me grow immediately.
Right. I saw on Instagram that you were talking with one of your teammates about the Mount Rushmore of foods. And I believe pizza was one of those 4. So I have to ask what the other 3 foods are on your Mount Rushmore.
On my Mount Rushmore, pizza number 1. I said snow crabs. Man, I might go lemon pepper wings. And 4th one, spaghetti for sure.
That's a pretty well-rounded. You got two kind of quasi-Italian dishes there. Growing up with your 4 brothers, that must have been an amazing experience having 4 brothers in the household.
Yeah.
It must have driven your mom a little crazy, but your dad must have been pretty excited about that.
For sure.
What's it like growing up with 4 brothers? And then all of you guys playing football. The competition must have been pretty fierce.
Yeah, definitely. Every day competing. I remember I was probably in the 2nd grade, my first time ever playing tackle football. I put on pads, went head up with my oldest brothers. Were about 5 years older than me. probably gave me a concussion back then, but I didn't know. But just always wanted to compete with them. Do what my older brothers are doing. Like as a younger brother, you always look up to your older brothers.
Right.
So just always trying to do what they do, but like do it better than them, just because I'm a competitor. So I feel like everything we did growing up, it was just that competitive aspect.
You've got a brother who plays for Toledo. Your younger brother, is it your younger brother or older brother who you'll be
Older, a year older.
A year older, but he's a receiver. How does one brother end up 295 pounds and the other brother end up 190?
Somebody had to eat the leftovers.
Right.
It was me. I feel like all of my brothers are around that same size, 200, 195, and then it's just me.
You're the outlier.
Always in the kitchen,
Right.
Always at the table.
Okay.
That's how I got here.
Did you pick up some cooking skills along the way?
Man, I'm a chef right now.
Really?
Chef Boyardee. Yeah. I cook often.
Yeah.
Whenever I just don't feel like eating the food here, I'll just go home,
Right.
cook up a meal.
All right.
For sure.
What's your go-to in a pinch?
Probably Italian sausage pasta.
Oh, okay. Very sophisticated.
Yes, sir.
I saw you're a big Star Wars fan. You seem to be kind of a general, pardon the expression, kind of a nerd in a sense with a lot of, and I mean this in the highest complimentary way.
No, for sure.
You like Star Wars and anime and all kinds of things. So do you like the old Star Wars or do you prefer the new Star Wars?
Oh, Star Wars for sure. Definitely. Yeah. Star Wars. I feel like I'm just like an original type person, like an old school type person. So I'm in love with the old Star Wars. But I mean, of course, every Star Wars that comes out, I watch it.
What's your favorite movie of the original three?
A New Hope.
A New Hope. Okay.
A New Hope for sure.
Now, which of the characters do you identify with the most?
Looks wise, I'm probably like a Chewbacca. On the field, I see myself as like a Darth Vader, though.
Ooh, I like that. You're also into anime. Have you ever watched Howl's Moving Castle or Spirited Away? Any of those movies by Miyazaki?
Never seen any of those. I'm more of like a big Dragon Ball Z guy.
Okay.
I used to watch it like literally
every
day growing up, coming home, watching Dragon Ball Z, Naruto.
Okay. You seem to be into the heroes and the heroic type quests. I saw on your Twitter account you call yourself Theseus. What's behind that?
That's just probably like a top 3 movie of mine. I watched it and I was like, man, like this guy is a stud. Like that's what I want to be like. So I just made my Twitter handle Theseus.
That's awesome. You're just gonna go out and kill the Minotaur.
Yeah.
On a regular basis, right?
For sure.
So I also saw that you're into building and designing cars. I know your dad owned an auto mechanic shop. Are you still into that as much?
I'm still into it. If I go down my Instagram feed right now, it's probably just straight old school cars. I just love old school cars, the sound of them, the looks of them, and there's just something unique about it to me.
So not a fan of electric vehicles?
Not at all, honestly.
Right. Okay, so going back to the Heisman a little bit, do you have any early Heisman memories or any memories of Heisman winners when you were growing up watching football?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm from Florida, so Tim Tebow growing up was that guy, of course.
Right.
And me, I grew up playing running back, so I remember just watching Reggie Bush film all the time. USC, like, I feel like every running back growing up wanted to be like Reggie Bush at USC.
Right.
Derrick Henry, like all those, of course, all the Alabama running backs.
Right.
There's a lot of greats in that.
Do you know of any like previous Illinois players that appeared in the Heisman rankings at all?
I can't tell you. Hopefully, like Dick Butkus or somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, Dick Butkus was definitely in the top 5 back in his day. probably one of the highest rated Illinois defenders to make it to the Heisman.
Yeah.
So what I have a question for you is, say you're a Heisman voter and you were looking to vote for a defensive lineman for the Heisman Trophy. Tell me the things you'd be looking for in that defensive lineman. What little things that, beyond the stats, beyond sacks and tackles for loss, and what other things should a Heisman voter be looking for when looking at you play on the field or looking at any defensive lineman play on the field?
Just the film. Like you said, the stats really don't matter at the end of the day. It's like you see this player playing, dominating every single play, like a Heisman should play, like a pro should play. So I feel like that's all I look for. It's like somebody that's unblockable as a defensive lineman, even in a double team aspect, could shed the double team to make a tackle. I feel like a dominant player is what anybody would want to see.
And who's your biggest influence off the field, would you say?
From a defensive lineman perspective?
Any perspective.
Biggest influence? Always, I could say I look up to The Rock, Shaq, the things they do off the field for people. I just feel like that's very touching to me, seeing them always give back to the community, to people, the franchises they have, and just the way they move about certain things. I love those guys.
So 20 years from now, what kind of legacy do you want to have, or what would you look back and where would you see yourself in 20 years?
Owning a Papa John's, walking in getting free pizza. Probably, I have dreams of having my own little league football team, giving back to those kids, giving them the knowledge that I grew up with, helping them move in the right direction. Hopefully bigger than that, look at LeBron James with the I Promise School. Hopefully that's something I could do for my city, I'm just always giving back because I feel like you can't take nothing with you. They're great, so you might as well just give back right here.
Well, Johnny Newton, thanks for coming on the official Heisman Trophy podcast. It was great catching up with you, and we wish you the best of luck in the season, staying healthy, and having a great year for the Illini.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all for having me.
This is Eric Crouch, 2001 Heisman Trophy winner from the University of Nebraska, and you're listening to the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
Eric Crouch was announced as the 2001 Heisman Trophy winner almost 3 months exactly after the terrorist attack on 9/11. As we approach the 22nd anniversary of the event, we talked with the Nebraska Cornhusker great about the time he spent in New York that December, his opportunity to visit with first responders, and other memories he had from his first visit to the city.
Looking back on it, it was kind of a surreal moment in history. I think everybody was taken back, and I was no different. I'd never been in New York City before, and I just kind of watched everything happen, on the TV. I didn't know I'd end up in New York City during the season, and was very fortunate to have that opportunity. You get to New York City, you're excited about this, Heisman vote and who's going to win. It's an exciting time, and it just felt like there were some other things that were more important, especially after winning the award, going down to ground zero and spending some time with the firefighters and the paramedics and the first responders. It was still on fire, still smoking, still smoldering. It was an eerie feeling, what you saw on TV, what just wasn't the same when you went down there. A lot of people had lost loved ones and their best friends, and a lot of people in the community. So it was an interesting moment, but I do believe that the Heisman Trophy did shine some light on their lives, bringing the trophy down and letting them take pictures and photos, and they were very appreciative. I've got several great photographs. I've also got some memorabilia of my own from them. I've got a United States flag that they gave me, as well as some signed helmets, like construction helmets or things that they were wearing at the time when I went down to visit with them. So they were very generous and giving of their time. And it was just a surreal moment, man. It was one of those you look back and you go, wow. I mean, I was humbled to be part of that, and just honored to be around such great people and the true heroes of 9/11.
Crouch still remembers the details of that day, like the smell from the cleanup that still lingered months later.
Was really one of the first things that I noticed. You don't get it when you're up in Times Square, but you get there and you get close enough. And I'm sure at times that you could, but when I was there, I don't know if the wind was blowing differently, but or it just been time had gone by, so it wasn't so strong. But back, that first part of December, you're talking, 2-3 months later. The smell it was one of those things where you're like, what is that? It's something that you just, it's not the everyday, it's not the anytime smell. It just true like destruction and death. It's weird. It's weird. It was something that stuck with me for a long time. Just being down there, being around, it was just, I don't know, it's somber, a little bit sad. I mean, I've gone back and been able to visit the memorial that's there. They did a real nice job, and I think that was the right thing to do. Anyway, I was honored to be just to be part of it during the season when this was all going down. And we played Rice. It was the first game after 9/11. We came out and we did some really nice tributes to our first responders and our police officers, and just people that you really have, after some event like that happens, it just shines a different light on what those people do on a daily basis to save lives. So, football was kind of an afterthought. It was all about, the people and that you're around and your loved ones, and made us reflect on the way we were approaching our practices and our games a lot differently than just, being selfish and thinking about, what's best for myself. It was all about each other, and it made us closer as a football team.
The Downtown Athletic Club had been the home of the Heisman since its start in 1935. It was just a few blocks from Ground Zero. The building's upper floors sustained damage from debris from the fallen towers on 9/11, and 11 members from the club lost their lives that day.
Well, Downtown Athletic Club is right there, and it was gone. I mean, there was not much that, there was a lot of soot, I guess, or smoke, and a lot of damage to the building. It was, I didn't get to experience it like everyone else did that won the Heisman Trophy and got to, have their family there, and the event and the TV show and everything kind of centered around the DAC. They brought it up to the Marriott Marquis, and so that was different. But they did one heck of a job. I mean, seeing pictures of the Downtown Athletic Club, and they recreated it. I mean, they did a tremendous. I take my hat off to the people that worked effortlessly on that. They did a tremendous job on recreating what the DAC looked like, and with such a short time to be able to put that together was pretty spectacular. So man, I mean, the history's there. I wish it would have been different for me, but I look back and I say, well, that's the way it was. And that's, it made me think a little bit differently about the award. And again, I felt honored, in a way, to be able to, do what I was doing, and, being able to, play football and do it on a great stage, and just represent, the nation, in terms of sports, and, the amount of energy that goes into working your butt off, that people don't realize it with football. But I kind of turn that energy to other things. And I think that it really had an impact on the reason for me winning the Heisman Trophy that year.
Crouch's visit to New York City for the Heisman ceremony was the first of many to come.
It was my first trip to New York, and I've been back almost every year since. It was, well, first of all, I'm just not used to, I'm from Nebraska. So we don't have that many buildings in one area. There is a lot of people. And so a lot of culture, you're just kind of wide eyed. You're just looking like, wow, look at that building or look at the architecture, or how do people live like this? How does this work for them? Where's the cornfields at? Again, I had my family there. It was really nice. We had, the learning and meeting all the people from the Heisman Trophy. It was great. It was a fun moment. I was happy to be able to share that with them. I do remember that there is a funny story here. I do remember leaving New York City, going home back to Nebraska, and how airport security got after 9/11. So here I am. I've got a couple guys with me that are kind of helping me escort me back to the ticket area. And I'm carrying this, like I'm rolling in this like large, like steel box, it's like a strange box. And like, why are these guys, like, what's going on? So we get stopped by security. Like, what are you guys doing? What are you bringing in here? And we kind of opened up and showed them, and they, everybody took pictures and laughed, but it was just one of those moments like, it just things changed very quickly.
But in the midst of his unique weekend, Crouch was still able to make special connections, and he quickly felt the bond of the Heisman fraternity.
There's a lot of former winners that showed up for me that day, and I'm sure that it was probably a tough thing to do for some. I remember Dick Kazmaier celebrating his 50th golden anniversary, which was really cool. I got a chance to meet Billy Sims from Oklahoma. I got a chance to meet Danny Wuerffel. I've met some great guys, over my times, but like just the guys that are there year after year, I think is pretty neat to go back and show their support for the new winner coming in. I think it's real important. That's why I've gone. I haven't made every single one. I think a couple I've missed due to health reasons. But man, it's a cool thing. It's a great group of guys and people that are running the organization. And you know what, you're around guys that you relate to, guys that what they're going through. And again, I've had some good friendships and, gone to support some of the other Heisman winners, their events, around the country, whether it's a charity fundraiser or a golf event, or, maybe they've got an idea, they're trying to, start something new. So, there's been a lot of that, and I wish there was more. It just seems like, there's, especially after the pandemic and COVID, I think it's kind of shaking things up a little bit with guys, but there's a good solid 20, 25 guys that always kind of seem to come back. And after being 22 years, like you said, it's kind of like, you start to see, the aging process of some of the guys that have been kind of the staples that, start having some of the health issues, and some have passed away. And so that's very sad to see. But they're all great people, a lot of great memories that I've had and been able to share over the years.
Take an even deeper dive into Heisman lore by going to Heisman.com, home to all things Heisman, including news, bios, and the latest on all the winners, plus updates on the Heisman Trophy Trust and its charitable mission. It's the A to Z for everything Heisman, from Alan Amici to Danny Wuerffel. We really need a Heisman winner whose name begins with Z. 1996 Heisman Trophy winner Danny Wuerffel moved to New Orleans as a rookie quarterback in 1997 after being drafted by the Saints. Soon after, Wuerffel sought out ways to volunteer and help in his new community, and quickly found a home at Desire Street Ministries. Desire Street is an organization that focuses on community development in some of the nation's most impoverished areas. Following his NFL career, Wuerffel returned to the lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans and began full-time work with Desire Street, and is now its executive director. One of the many organizations supported by the Heisman Trophy Trust, Desire Street is now headquartered in Atlanta and works with ministry leaders throughout the South to help revitalize under-resourced neighborhoods. We recently chatted with Danny about Desire Street and his Wuerffel Foundation, which sponsors the Wuerffel Trophy. Tell me about your experience with Desire Street Ministries and how that whole association got started.
Well, when I moved to New Orleans to play for the Saints, I was very open to look for something to be involved in and help in the town, in the city while I was there. And several things happened that sort of got me aware of this small organization that had started a few years earlier called Desire Street Ministries. It was located in one of the worst ranked neighborhoods in the country, the second largest public housing project, on and off the murder capital of the country. And a guy from Georgia moved in and was working with kids and families. And I was just blown away by what he was doing and the work they were doing. So I just started volunteering, helping out. We did after school programming, a lot of educational enrichment stuff. At one point started a church, started doing some housing, eventually started a school. And so I was just thrilled. It was amazing to me to think that a few miles from the Superdome, where I was playing professional football, where us Gators had the first ever national championship in the school's history and celebrated that, there were people that had so much less access to resources, to opportunities, to a good education. It was just heartbreaking. So I just began to volunteer and be a part of that. And then eventually in 2004, I retired from the NFL to go right to work full time at Desire Street, and have never looked back.
And then the next year, there was calamity. There was Katrina hitting New Orleans. What was that experience like?
Yeah, actually, wasn't long ago that we just celebrated the 18-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, as it really devastated New Orleans. And I mean, there's so many stories about that. Some beautiful, some horrible memories. I remember leaving town, and Coach Springer called to check on me, and he's like, "Danny, just want to make sure you're not trying to stay around and be a hero. You make sure you get out of there, okay?" I'm like, "Yes, sir. We're evacuating." He goes, "Also, did you bring your trophy with you? Don't leave that behind." Actually, the trophy at that time was at my parents' house, so it was safe. But man, just the devastation, kind of the changing of priorities. I remember going back to New Orleans and seeing all the houses that were gutted, which meant you basically took everything out.
Yeah.
Everything you put on the street, and it's all trash, and you hope you can save the frame of your house and the structure to rebuild. And I just remember thinking to myself, just a few weeks ago, all of this trash was somebody's treasure. And like how quickly that changed. And like in my life, how much of my time and my money and my effort am I investing in things that will quickly be trash?
Yeah.
And how much of my life am I investing in something that really, really matters? And so there were so many priority changes for me around that time. And shortly after, I became the director of Desire Street, and we moved our headquarters to Atlanta. And now we work with under-resourced neighborhoods all over the country, and we're in the middle of a 5-year plan to impact 20 neighborhoods by 2025. And just it's been an incredible journey. There's so many people in our own country, again, that just don't have the same opportunities, and to be a part of an organization that makes a difference has just been fantastic for me. And again, to tie some of this together, my experience as as a football player, and really having won this award, the Heisman Trophy, has been absolutely incredible in opening doors to help other people.
Well, it's certainly an inspiration using that platform to do good. What are some of your favorite success stories from your work at Desire Street?
I remember there's a unique moment at Florida Field, actually. University of Florida was playing LSU, and LSU kicked off, and Brandon James, who was just featured on the recent Swamp Kings Netflix documentary, was an electric kickoff returner, and he took the ball, and every time he touched it, you never knew if he was going to score. And he put his plant foot in at the 17-yard line, but instead of hitting a crease, he got tackled, and the whole stadium at Florida just was a collective disappointing sigh. And the sideline at Florida was very frustrated. But there was one person on the sideline, on the Florida sideline, that was celebrating this play like crazy. And that person was me, because the person on the LSU football team who ran down the field and tackled Brandon was D'Angelo Peterson, a young man who grew up on the streets of New Orleans, and like many others, statistically had a good chance to end up either in prison or perhaps dead by the time he was 21. And yet he liked pizza and basketball, so he went to a Desire Street basketball evening and got free pizza and went to a Bible study and ended up getting some academic tutoring, ended up joining the school, Desire Street Academy, was able to graduate high school, got a full scholarship to LSU, and just the trajectory of his life was changed because of the investment of other people. And D'Angelo's one of thousands and thousands of kids and families since 1990 whose lives have been impacted by Desire Street.
And that's a fantastic story. In addition to Desire Street, you also have the Wuerffel Foundation. Tell me about that.
Yeah, a few years ago, we launched the Wuerffel Foundation, and really to promote not just the work that people are doing in under-resourced neighborhoods, but we support all other kinds of nonprofits. I've spent a lot of time helping former athletes with their foundations and their charitable work, and we do that through the foundation. And also, we now are the steward of the Wuerffel Trophy, which is a college award for community service. Mm-hmm. In fact, the former executive director of the Heisman Trophy, Rudy Riska, he was one that really convinced me to do this, that college football could use an award that wasn't for yards or touchdowns or tackles, but for helping others. And so we've been doing this for many years now. This past year, we had 109 nominations, and our winner, Dylan Gibbons from Florida State, is an amazing young man. And in fact, the Heisman Trophy Trust invited me and Dylan to be a part of all the Heisman festivities over the weekend. And so just the more we can shine a light on the good work that people are doing, I think it inspires more of us to do a service. And so that's the mission of the Wuerffel Foundation, is to inspire service and unity in the world.
At the Heisman banquet every year, you say a prayer before the event starts, and you always remind the people there sitting at the tables, nice warm meals, of the people outside in the cold who are struggling and hungry. And I think it serves as a jarring reminder to people of the work that needs to be done out there. And so many times people have faith, and it's often just an identity rather than their works. And you seem to have really found that formula for going out there and living that faith. And how did you, crossing that line, I think is hard for some people, where you believe in helping people, but actually going there on the front lines and doing it is sometimes just a step too far for people. How do you get people to take that jump, to go from the theoretical, philosophy of your faith to actually living it and helping other people?
Well, I think one is really recognizing how central to faith caring for other people is, and not just in words, but in deeds. And so I think, as we try to be the best faithful stewards of our faith, and, as a Christian, to me, it's very clear throughout the Bible that that's part of our DNA. I recognize that a lot of other faith traditions have very similar callings. And I think as people live those out, you actually can find a lot of joy in helping others and serving others. And so often you actually go thinking you're going to help someone else, and you find out that there's things that they have that you don't have, or that you can mutually encourage each other. I've learned so much from my friends in under-resourced neighborhoods about community, about caring for each other. Some of the very, very most generous people I've ever met don't have much, but they're giving away so much of what they have for each other that it's just pretty amazing. But then also I think, most of us are pretty good at something,
Mm-hmm.
And if you can figure out a way to what you're good at and what you enjoy, do it in a way that helps others. Just a weird example. We've had a lot of accountants and finance people come say, "Hey, I want to help, but I don't really know how to help kids, and I don't even like kids." Some people might say or think, but it's like, every nonprofit I know is desperate for a good accountant on their board.
Yeah.
Or someone to help them with their books. Like whatever you do, are you a lawyer? Everybody needs some advocacy. Are you in real estate? Well, we've got several issues right now with housing that we could use help with. So whatever you're good at, finding a place that can leverage that to help others, I think is a great way to invest yourself.
So if someone wanted to help out at Desire Street or with the Wuerffel Foundation, what would they have to do?
Yeah, well, I think that if you just go to DannyWuerffel.com, you can find links to all those things. The hardest part is spelling my last name, but DannyWuerffel.com, there's different Desire Street ministry partners in multiple cities. So if you're in a city where we have a partner, there's probably some really neat opportunities. The Wuerffel Foundation is doing different things throughout. So depending on where you live, and then of course we're trying to raise the money that we need to do the work that we're doing all the time as well. So we're constantly having events and different ways to try to support what we do.
We recently talked to Carlton Obi over at Mercy Street. Tell us a little bit about your involvement with Mercy Street. He did mention you as sort of being an inspiration for a lot of what they do.
Man, that's a ministry that's been around for a good bit. We've partnered with Mercy Street even when Trey Hill was the director before Carlton. And they're doing so many things through their mentoring program, especially their sports outreach ministries. And they're doing some phenomenal work, and they've built up quite a great different facility levels for different sports there, that it's really a model for, I think, a lot of groups to follow. And then Carlton stepped into that role, and it's hard. I look back at my football career, and we talked about it a lot earlier. Coach Spurrier, without Coach Spurrier, we're not having this conversation. There was someone that poured into me, that helped me, that guided me. And in some ways, that's what Desire Street does for folks like Carlton. And we really help develop them so that they can be effective and sustainable for the long haul. And they're doing great work. Anybody anywhere near Dallas needs to check out Mercy Street for sure.
In about 5 years from now, where do you envision all these efforts?
Well, on the Desire Street front, I think we'll be connecting and developing more and more neighborhoods, and that ultimately many of these great works will still be going on that may have, without our help, experienced burnout or some other type of things. It's really hard. The average leader in an urban ministry like this is usually 5 years or less before they burn out. So we're trying to help sustain that for the long haul. On the Wuerffel Trophy front, I really hope that more and more people are aware of what all the work is happening with college football players. This year, I think we had 110 on the watch list, and I'd love to just to tell their stories more and more, because it's inspiring when you hear what people are doing. Usually in this line of work, if you're not the best player on the best team or win the Heisman Trophy, you're not in the news unless you do something really bad.
Right.
So this is a way for us to promote the good.
Yeah.
That inspires us all, and hopefully we'll see more and more of that.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had any metrics that you look at to sort of to see any progress you're making, or is it mostly just on a personal level, brick by brick kind of thing, or do you ever zoom back from the larger angle to see where things are headed?
Yeah, we look at all that. Our particular work at Desire Street is really focused on the health of the leaders on all these organizations. Mm-hmm. And so we have a lot of metrics on what makes a healthy organization, how does a leader be most effective, and their impact in the neighborhood. And so we really, our sense is to have the right people being successful leading the organizations will impact the most people. And now on the ground level, looking at definite reading levels, math levels, grade levels, graduation, all those sort of things. I think that the biggest success stories that we love to see, and it's not intended to happen in every case, but when the kids grow up and they get opportunities to do anything they want and they want to go back and help. Mm-hmm. And so many of the programs now around the country are being led, for instance, in New Orleans on Desire Street, in the main building that was ruined in Katrina. Oscar Brown is leading the way, and he was a kid that back in the day was a little knucklehead high school kid that we were wrestling with. And now he's, 40-year-old man That's just the amazing leader and transforming lives, and that's what we want to see.
Was the COVID interlude a tough thing to deal with Desire Street and the foundation, or was it something that was galvanizing for you guys?
On the ground level, it was really difficult for folks. Usually when there's challenges in a society, it's the one on the folks that are on the lower end of the rung who feel it the hardest. Losing a lot of the jobs weren't available anymore. A lot of the kids counted on their meals at school. And so when you don't have school, you're also now looking at access to meals. When a lot of kids like my kids went virtual, we have Wi-Fi and computers. A lot of kids didn't. Mm-hmm. So on the ground, there was more challenges. An interesting phenomenon happened, and this is good and bad. A lot of nonprofits were worried about their funding during COVID, but in many ways, people that had money and the stock market did well.
Yeah.
So people with resources did well. So donations were good. But it is a little ironic, again, that in a time when so many people are suffering, some people somehow are still making money and doing well. But thankfully, many of them were very generous, and in Desire Street and many other nonprofits were able to continue their work.
Thanks to Danny Wuerffel for stopping by, as well as Eric Crouch and Johnny Newton. We hope you enjoyed the show and that you'll come back next week when Michigan running back Blake Corum will be our featured guest. In the meantime, we hope you subscribe and like and tell everybody you know about the show, and we'll see you next week. The official Heisman Trophy podcast streams every Wednesday during the college football season and is hosted, co-produced, edited, and engineered by Chris Houston. Paul Goldberg is the executive producer and editor. Special shout out to Isaac Lowenkron, and big thanks to the Heisman Trophy Trust and its executive director Rob Whalen and associate director Tim Henning. The official Heisman Trophy podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find clips of our show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Just go to @Heisman Trophy.